Hey folks, Tim Newman with Soft Light Studios bringing yet another daily assignment your way. Today's assignment for August 4th, 2019. Our assignment today is titled Your Take on Texture. As you begin to study light in earnest, you begin to understand that light is responsible for form, volume, and texture. And texture is the ideal expression of tactile surfaces and feel, the quality of finish of an object, and overall age. Work some texture shots today. So let's take a look at some sample images here. In this first sample image, we really have texture just for texture's sake. And I think it really does a good job of conveying a number of elements of this piece of wood. One is, it's conveying age pretty well. It's also conveying tactile feel. This board is going to be rough. This paint is going to be flaky and dry. And last but not least, in a very subtle way, it conveys the quality of this piece here, or, as we might interpret it, the lack thereof. So I think there are a lot of subtle messages here when you're taking a look at texture. Now, one of the things that I like about this image is it has a really well-defined color set that's definitely been captured in this scene, and I think goes a long ways towards bringing this image together. Now, it's a simple image, but I think that you'll agree that the lines in it really divide up the image very well, give it that aged wood feel, and I think there's a pretty good nod to geometric balance here as well. Areas where there are colors and areas where there is a lack of color, to be quite candid, and those two areas balance against one another pretty well. In our next sample image, we have frozen water or ice, and that conveys a texture as well. And it also conveys a feel here. I mean, this picture, just because of the texture that we're seeing here, combined with the color and the muted blues in it, has a very cool feel to it. It feels cold like ice would feel. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. It's kind of a chaotic picture in terms of lines going lots of different directions, but that's what you expect to see a lot of times in frozen ice surfaces like this. So it makes sense. Let's take a look at the elements of design that matter to us here. Of course, form is pretty important. Form is really generated by texture. And when we talk about composition, we say that shape is the two-dimensional version of form, and form is the three-dimensional version of shape. And of course, we're conveying that three-dimensional view in a two-dimensional medium. So it's that form where we are looking to see if we can find shadow and texture. Quality of light matters a lot for texture. If the light is direct and it's harsh and it's overhead, the texture is going to really suffer from a wide range of tonal options or tonal distribution here. At an off angle, lower angle, the light is longer shadows and more subtle tonality in there, which works better for texture. And last but not least, look for colors in this texture as well. They can really bring the whole picture together, as it were. All right, let's take a look at some more sample images. Obviously, the texture here should convey to you a softer feeling. And one of the things that I like about the texture here is we really have a horizontal division of rules of thirds. If you aren't considering that, it's there. We've got some leading lines from the corners pulling us into the center. And I think the monochromatic color set here works really well in helping to divide up the tonal balance of the image. Here we go. This is a little bit more subtle texture, but this is texture. And if you remember just a little bit ago, we were talking about elements of design. I talked about that really low angle light providing really great subtle texture. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. A very low angle light giving us a really nice subtle texture across the surface of this water. And I think the color set here works really well in gluing this picture together. Last but not least, here's some metal texture. It's kind of an unfinished metal, and it's obviously got some surface contour to it, as well as a little bit of rust. And I think with the bolt heads on both sides and that large space in the center, it really uses negative versus positive space extremely well. I think there's really great symmetry here in the picture. And I just think the layout and the color tone of this works really, really well. So I kind of like this abstract texture, if you will. Let's take a look at the rules of composition that we're going to be keeping an eye on here. Rule of thirds, keep that one tucked away in the back of your mind. That definitely helps. Think about balance, and when we're thinking about balance, we're thinking about geometric and tonal and subject balance in some cases. And last but not least, I think you'll agree that all of these sample images that you've seen so far in this video all have exhibited some control over the color set that's in them. Let's take a look at our last slide, which is our formatting guidelines for exporting images to be uploaded in consideration of the semi-monthly image critique. You'll also see some naming standards and examples below. If none of this makes any sense to you, please take a look at the Update 01 video, for which there is a link in the description below this video. You'll also find the link for the upload URL down in that description as well. And then right outside of that description box, you'll find that handy dandy subscribe button. You should try clicking on that. That's a pretty great link too. All right, folks, go out there and find some texture. And remember, learning equals skills, practice equals mastery. We'll see you out there.